What's going on, Copper Stackers? Welcome back to the channel. So I got a good one for you guys today. This might be a multi-part video because it might be pretty long. But I don't know about you guys, I've had a pretty long dry spell when it comes to copper. Haven't been getting much, but then every once in a while I'll get blindsided with a ton of it, right? Which is great. It's a great way to be blindsided. So why don't we first, we'll run down into the basement, see the score. And then we're going to do something a little different today. Alright guys, we are down here in the storage area. Not very big, and this is why I have to condense. I don't have much space. I try to keep whatever I can actually reuse. You know, like this good copper L. A lot of repairs need to be done around here. So anything I can use, I try to keep. Long lengths of wire, anything that's, yeah. But beyond that, it goes in here. And this stuff that's in here has been trickling in slowly. Very, very slowly. Lead batteries. Rolls of lead. I've got brass. There's actually a bunch of brass in here. I just haven't had time to sort. And then any of the copper that's not worth the fight's going to go in there. We're going to cash that in. And then hopefully put a few bucks in my pocket, and the rest will buy the gas to just, you know, condense all of this. But just this week alone, we got this and all of that, and that's like 38 pounds, I believe, somewhere there. All copper gutters. So there's a company that came out and they were trying to do well, they were making these in the shop, but they were trying to make like a curved section, and they screwed it up like twice. So they kept sending us more and more and more copper, and there's a lot of it here. Kind of a shame, but I was considering even maybe using some of this and putting it on my house, but then I would have to buy the end caps and the downspout and all. It would be quite expensive, and it's I don't know if it'd be wise to hang jewelry off of your house in the hood. Probably not smart, so I think I'll just keep the aluminum gutters and turn all this into bars. So before we melt anything into bars, I've been doing some research, and I apologize, this might be a long video, or this might be a two-part video, but this is good stuff here, hopefully. So I've been doing a lot of research, a lot. I am a copper fiend. You know, this bar is mostly wire. It's pretty clean, but it's scrap. It's scrap copper nonetheless at the end of the day. This is copper gutter. You notice it rose like a loaf of bread. A lot of impurities in this. A lot of impurities. And I'm only going to get scrap price for this. Ever. Which is going to be at least $1 under whatever the chart says. So let's actually go over to the chart real quick. So this is the monthly chart on copper. Every candle is 1 month. You'll notice in 2020 we hit a bottom at $2 a pound, and then it shot up and it hit $5 area twice and got rejected and came back down. Found support around 325, pushed up. Lower high, came back down. I threw this trend line because we had multiple contact points on a single plane. Then it broke through, but it didn't do structure damage. It wasn't convincing. It really could have gone either way. Right? We could have retested and gone lower. That was a possibility, but it didn't. It broke through right back to the upside. So it looks like copper's getting ready for another run at $5 per pound. And do you think we're going to break through that $5 level? I do. I do. Might not be tomorrow, but I do think we're going to be breaking through that level. It could be in a year from now. It could be in 2 years from now, but I do think it's coming. So a quick side note, guys, and then we'll get back to the charts. But is there a possibility I'm wrong and copper hits, say, $5.40 and then comes back down and never breaks that level? Yes, of course. I only see two scenarios, though, the way I see it. So the first thing you have to understand is money. And once I started looking into this, it was life-changing for me in just a short time period. I have a really hard time dating these days because I'm looked at as the crazy person, right? But I started looking into money and I realized gold, silver, and yeah, copper. I think people need to give credit where credit is due. Copper is money. It has been for a long time. I have a coin in here from 1832, province of Nova Scotia. Alright, gold was higher denomination, silver, middle ground, copper, lower denomination. It was based on what? Scarcity. They couldn't just poof, print more. So our money used to be valuable. A lot of the wealth was at the bottom. That's why the United States grew and everybody wanted to come here to get the American dream. But slowly, it's got to be slow. Communism doesn't happen overnight, folks. It's got to be slow. As soon as people start to kick and scream, that's when they back off or throw a government program and throw some money at you to shut you up. But what happened? They took the gold out. We had this stuff. It was backed by gold. We actually had $1 bills that said silver certificate on it for a while. Right? But then we're no longer backed by gold. And we still had silver, right? Up until what? 66? Then they pulled the silver. But we still had copper until 1982. You notice it was a slow transition. But they essentially stole the value. They took the value out of money. Why would they do that? Why would they take the value out of money? Because at the end of the day, this is money. This is currency. Huge difference. Huge difference. But the reason they took the value out of money is because the big banks, and this is not just a United States problem. This is a Europe problem. This is a lot of place problem. There's many countries that are lumped in with this. This is a much bigger thing, a much bigger issue. So the big banksters all got together and figured out a way that they could essentially take all of the wealth and drag it from our fingers, right? And they could drag all the wealth from the bottom to the top. It's this debt-based system. All the people at the top, the elites, they hold all of the money, they hold all of the power, and we are all indebted to them. Agenda 2030. Think about it. They're actively telling you this. Agenda 2030, you will own nothing. Nothing. And apparently you're going to be happy about it. They want it all. So this became a game. And that's the first thing I realized when I started looking into money. It's a big fucking game. And I'm like, I'm out there working for this shit? What the fuck is going on? Right? Because if you work for this and you bring this home and you're like, okay, I'm gonna save this. No, you get punished. You get punished for it. Because you hold this and they are stripping its value from you. They are robbing you blind. And this has been happening for a long time, so it's a big game of hot potato. Hot potato, hot potato, hot potato. It's all a game of how fast you can get this and get the fuck rid of it. Because by you holding on to this, they're robbing you. So you're like, okay, I don't want this. I'm going to bring it to the bank and give it to them. They don't want it. It becomes a liability to them. So they lend it to someone else and someone else and someone else. It's a vicious cycle, and it's not working. Clearly it isn't working because poverty just keeps getting worse, things keep getting worse, homelessness is out of control, and they blame it all on capitalism. But if you boil it down, it has nothing to do with any of that. Follow the money. The money will lead you to the truth. So yes, if we continue down this system that we are in, I see no reason copper will not explode through that $5 level and go much higher. It's inevitable. It's not if, it's when. Right? But I'm also hearing on the other hand, and this is why I'm trying not to put all of my chips in one place. Right? Because I see al-Sudani in Iraq, and I see what he's doing for his people, and I'm like, I want to be a part of that. So I've put some of my dollars into the Iraqi dinar. Spread it out. But I also hear another possible outcome is that, and I've heard it called many different things, a currency reset, a revaluation, a wealth transfer. Right? Which this was proposed back in like the early 90s, but got shut down because they wanted to keep this Ponzi scheme going longer. But basically, if we did a currency reset, we kind of just erased the debt all over the place. It's gone. The house that you're in that you have a mortgage on, it's gone. I mean, because you think about it, if you've been getting screwed all these years by these people, wouldn't the masses be completely outraged and want to be paid back? Like, wouldn't I be much further on in life or in a much better place if they hadn't been screwing me my entire life? You know, they purposely don't teach you about money in schools because they don't want you to know. It's crazy. You have to go look for yourself or otherwise you'll never find it. But it's what the rich knew that the poor did not. But if we went through a currency reset, a revaluation, whatever, maybe they get rid of these and they come out with a new US dollar. But then it is then backed by something real money. Again, it's backed by gold and silver once again. What would that do? Well, that would take all the wealth that's been siphoned to the top and it would drop it right back in our laps. Literally right back in our laps. Where it should be to begin with. I should be able to go to work for my money, bring it home, and say, you know what, I'm gonna save this stuff for later, and hold on to it, and not worry about someone stealing. Because when we go back to a gold-backed system, I can hold it, and nobody can steal it from me. They can't steal the wealth. They can't do any of that. They lose their power. And then I look at, I look at everything that's going on these days, and it's like, yeah, our politicians, they do not have control. They are not the ones pulling the strings. And especially the Democrats. They are so corrupt. So corrupt. There's some Republicans as well, but it's mostly Democrats. They are just playing right into this. You look at their salaries and you go, how the heck are they millionaires? All of them. They're all multi-millionaires, but they make this measly salary because they're corrupt as fuck. Right? And they tell you it's capitalism. It's capitalism. It's destroying the world. Right? If you don't vote Democrat, then you hate black people and you want trans kids to die. What the fuck? And they're disguising it with global warming. We've got to save the planet, guys. I mean, come on. It's the money. It always has been the money. You want equality? You notice things are not very equal right now. You want true equality, it starts right here. At the money. And people are screaming for change. We had change. It was right here. It's right under our noses, but nobody wanted it. And we have another chance at that on this coming election. We have another chance at change. And I feel like we can all vote to speed this up and get this currency reset done sooner. Or we can all play pretend like we're saving the planet and we care about black people and all this stuff. Which it's like, I'm sitting here going, I don't vote this way because I hate black people. That makes no sense. I vote this way because I see the problem. I see the real problem. It has nothing to do with capitalism. It has nothing to do with black lives. It has nothing to do with any of that. It is so minuscule on a much bigger picture. Follow the money. Bullshit walks, money talks. Money will lead you straight to the truth. So, based on my research, we are in the beginning stages of a commodity super cycle. So commodities in general should continue to go up in price, especially if they don't fix our money and we continue this Ponzi scheme that we've been in. Yeah, more than likely history is going to repeat itself. So we should not expect to see the top tippy top price in copper for, I would say, at least 10 years plus. It could be 10 years, it could be 12 years, it could be 14 years. But 10 years minimum, I would say, would be where we're starting to get close to the very, very top in copper. And if you think back a little bit ago, right? People used to call the other people crazy that were picking, their silver coins out of their change and putting those to the side. They're like, "Oh, you're crazy. What are you doing?" But now those silver coins are worth a lot of money. And now people are starting to pick the copper coins out of the bunch. And it's like, are we about to repeat something here? I don't know. But at least we have a time horizon. Now we have something. Okay, well, copper should hit a high, an absolute high, probably in 10 plus years. Okay. And that was always a goal of mine, was to, kind of hold on to this stuff and stack it long term alongside other things that I have that's just not in US dollars. But I failed twice because I needed the money. I had to cash it in and all that, yeah. But I'm hoping I'm at a point now where I can actually hold on to this stuff, longer term. Because honestly, guys, I mean, think about this for a second. Every time I do a plumbing job or something like that, I'm pulling copper pipes and stuff like that, copper drains, right? Because our drains used to be copper and brass, and the water pipes copper. But we're not putting copper back. We're replacing that copper with plastic. And this is happening all over the place. Every company is doing the same thing. So eventually, if we're pulling the copper and putting plastic in, coming across this stuff, coming across copper in the amounts that we're used to, is going to start to get lower and lower and lower, especially the higher the copper price goes. It's not going to make sense for companies and for people to put, say, copper pipes in their house because it's too damn expensive. So they're going to come up with alternative ways to do it, which is plastic. They're putting plastic. So I feel like copper in general, it's going to become harder and harder to acquire, especially for free. You know what I mean? It's going to start to dry up. It's not going to be like we're used to, and we're finding hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pounds of copper on a job. And yeah, it's still going to happen, but it's not. I don't think it's going to happen in the same scale, because copper is going to be used for only those things that copper is best suited for, right? That it's worth the money because it's copper, and it needs to be copper for all these reasons. But for everything else, copper is going to be replaced by something else. I mean, I already see it happening at work, so. Yeah, I would like to continue to hold and stockpile this stuff, because I do think it's going to go way up in value. But at the end of the day, this is scrap. And I hate that term. It's scrap. It's junk because it's mixed with other metals. So I'm never going to get top dollar for it. So I'm thinking to myself, is there a way that I can purify this stuff at home? Is there a way I can purify the copper even before pouring it into a bar in the first place? I don't want to get into acids and melting my arm off, and dying from fumes, or melting a giant hole in the floor or something like that. I don't want to have to go through 40 tanks of propane and, lead and all that kind of stuff. Is there a less expensive way that I could purify my copper? There is. I found a way, and we're going to give it a shot. So I spent about $100. Yeah, give or take around $100 in materials and tools necessary to attempt to do this. And at the end, we're going to try to figure out, was it worth it? Like, what did we get done? How much did we purify? How much did we spend? Is it worth it in the long run? Is it a waste of time? We're going to try to figure that stuff out. I'm hoping to have a whole setup going on right over here. You know, somewhere where the cat can't knock it over and start a fire. But I ordered a bunch of stuff and it should be here shortly. We're going to take a look at it and give this a go. So, first things first, if we're going to be pouring pure copper bars, I got a brand new crucible. Virgin crucible. Because my other one's quite contaminated. So that's been in the oven baking for like 5 hours at 400 degrees. And I'm just going to leave it in there, let it cool down naturally. And we're going to have to bring that out and temper it in the forge and season it with some borax. But while we're waiting on everything else to arrive, I figure we got time to kill. We might as well go down in the basement and start sorting through some of that mess. What do you think, Duke? I think he's a fan of the copper. You like it? Yeah, me too. We've got all the brass and lead sorted out. Holy cow, that thing weighs a ton. I got most of this gutter cut up and my hand's starting to honestly cramp up. I'm in no rush to get this done by any means. Oh yeah, that is good. And we're probably gonna save this really thick 220 wire. Yeah, we're gonna save this nice thick wire for the purifying process. The rest of it will just go in there. Yeah, I think this is good enough for now. I'm hoping, we're gonna test out a bar first, but I'm hoping I don't even need to melt this stuff, that I can just bang it into a small square and purify it before I melt it, but we'll see. So some of the stuff arrived and some of it is gonna be a few more days. But essentially, what we're going to attempt is called electrochemistry. We're going to purify copper bars using electricity. I mean, it sounds mental, right? When I heard, I was like, yeah, sign me up, sign me up. So what I needed to buy was a power supply, electronics power supply. This was like $35 straight off the boat, Chinesium, 30 volts, 10 amps. Should do the trick. Even came with the Gator Dun clips. There's some that are like $500 and they don't come with the dang clips. Beyond that, I needed copper sulfate crystals, which that's the piece I'm waiting on. I have distilled water. I have several gallons over there. You're going to need distilled water and the copper sulfate crystals. And beyond that, you're going to need a vessel. So I got a glass bowl because that's what everyone else had. But I'm like, wait a minute. How am I actually going to make this work? Wait. I'm going to go make my own vessel. So Home Depot bucket it is. Cut it down. Put in a strut for rigidity. A little truss system right here at the top. So we can hang things from it, make things easy. It's a little bit bigger than I think I need. That way I have wiggle room. You know, I can move things closer or further apart. We have plenty of room at the bottom and on the sides because I have a lot of copper to get through. But basically what we're after, and this is what we're supposed to be doing, is whatever copper we want to purify, we either drill a hole in it or rig it up to this wire in some fashion. And we're going to hang it on this side. And we're going to, basically, we're going to take that copper sulfate and distilled water, mix it together, and we're going to make blue toilet water. And we're going to take that blue toilet water and pour it in here. So that whatever we're trying to purify is hung on this, and it's suspended inside of that toilet water. And then we're going to take the positive terminal lead and hook it to whatever you're trying to purify. Then on the other side, I have a pure piece of copper wire, which is pure copper. Bent it to give it some surface area. on a single plane, I heard is what works best. And we're going to hang that over here. And obviously it has to be off the sides and off the bottom for a reason. And then we're going to hook the negative terminal to this one. Positive goes to negative, and basically what should happen is whatever you're trying to purify on this side will slowly start to dissolve. All of the impurities, the other metals, will fall to the bottom of the bucket. So if you start getting a buildup at the bottom and then we get a short, yeah, you got to make sure things are up and off the sides. But then positive go negative, right on the negative side, we should start to get pure copper crystals that grow off of this piece of wire. And I'm thinking if I have a little setup going on over here, I can check it every like 4 days or so, pull this out, you know, knock the crystals off, set it back in, and power it back up, and just let it run until we get through all of my copper. And then we should be left with a giant bin full of 100% pure copper crystals, which then we can then go and smelt and make into pure bullion bars, which is money. Just a lower denomination, but it's still money. Alright, so for you science nerds out there, I'm going to do my best here to be as scientific as possible. We are ready to go. I drilled a hole, and basically I started a logbook right there. We're going to weigh each bar before it goes into the purification machine. We're going to completely dissolve it, let all the impurities fall out, and then all of the copper crystals that we get on the back end, we're going to weigh that and write that number down. And that was bar 1. Obviously, this bar has a lot of impurities. Bar 2 might not have as much. So we're going to do this for 20 plus bars and then just average it all out at the end, seeing approximately how much impurities we're getting out of these bars. It might be important data because then we need to look at like, okay, well, how much did my electricity bill go up this month? What did I spend in materials? Was it all worth it in the end? We will figure that out. Alright guys, we're officially processing and purifying copper right in my office. How cool is that? So I was going to do a table, but I have height issues here. I am a little worried about my cat coming in here and kind of knocking it over and then have blue in the rug or whatever. I already caught him with his paws up here looking inside. You know, because cats are cats, man. They're curious creatures, man. He knocked some of the plastic fuzzies off into the blue toilet water, and they're floating. But it is what it is. You know, I don't allow him in here during the day when I'm not home. That door is closed. He's only in this room if he's supervised. If I go take a shower, that door's closed, because he likes to shred computer chairs. My last computer chair, that was expensive. I mean, he Swiss cheesed that thing. Hopefully he outgrew that, but I'm not taking the chance. Alright, so it's not a bad setup, right? It doesn't take up too much room. I just put it on one of these buckets here. It's got like a little rim, so I don't have to worry about it sliding off. It's a heavy bucket surrounded by heavy things, so I don't have to worry about it tipping over. Yeah, it should be fine. Should be good. But to be as scientific as possible, I used 32 ounces of copper sulfate crystals. I poured 16 ounces into 1 gallon of distilled water and shook it up vigorously for like 5 minutes. But I got to a point where we have this cool like blue Kool-Aid toilet water type color, and the crystals would stop dissolving. So then I figured it was like fully saturated liquid. So then I just poured it in, keeping the crystals in the jug, poured more distilled water in, and just rinsed and repeated until I had it all in there. So I used 32 ounces or 2 pounds of copper sulfate crystals and 2 gallons, approximately 2 gallons. There's a little left. in case there's evaporation or whatever. But yeah, we've got about 2 gallons of distilled water in there. I got it up to the height that I wanted. You can see we got 2/3, man. 2/3 of that bar is submerged. That makes things so much easier, right? So I see people do it in these fish bowls, but I don't know. I thought this was a good way to start because we have room. We have room to grow. It's just we have more room than we need, right? I still have space underneath that bar. So if any sediment falls, we won't get a short. I was even thinking, right? This is something we're going to mess with and play with it, right? So I was thinking we could put another truss across this way and put one copper bar down this side and one down this side, so we could do dualies. We could run dualies, man. And then who knows? I don't know. We could do maybe one negative terminal there and one there, or just maybe one negative terminal with 2 bars. Makes it go faster. I don't know. We shall see. So I'm running this at 10 volts. And the amps, they keep jumping around and changing all over the place. You can you hear it? Yeah, so there's a little cooling fan. Yep, there, it just shut off. So there's a fan that keeps kicking on to cool it down, but it's not hot. I don't feel any heat coming out of this thing at all. So I wanted to start this at night, you know, so I could go to sleep and wake up the next morning and see that my house isn't burnt down. You know what I mean? I just want to like come in here tomorrow, feel this, okay, it's not hot, because literally this thing's going to be running for probably months. Because we have a lot of copper to get through. So yeah, we'll mess around with the voltage and figure out, like, you know, what's the best way. I know people say if you do lower voltages you'll get harder crystals that won't break as easy, but I don't really care. You know, I'm not looking for hard crystals. I'm looking for pure copper that I can flick off into another bin and melt it into pure bullion bars. That's it. So we'll figure it out, guys. And then I've taken note of my electrical bill last month, and this thing's gonna be running for a month straight, so I'll let you guys know if the electricity bill goes up at all. What is that you say, Duke? Stuff's happening already? It's only been 3 hours. There's no way. There's no... What? Dude, look at that. We've got crystallage forming already. It's barely been 3 hours. Yeah, look at the yellow that's forming around the bar. That is cool, man. It's starting to chew it up. Alright guys, so we've been running for 24 hours now. We did get a bunch of crystals. I ordered a couple other things that just arrived that I think might make life a little bit easier. A 1 gallon fermenting flask, a wide mouth funnel, and some natural unbleached coffee filters. So at the end we can filter this fluid out. I couldn't find any bigger containers that would work, so we'll just have to filter a gallon at a time and then maybe pour it into this bowl and then pour it back in there. This copper, I got 10 pounds here of copper sulfate powder. This stuff's actually a little bit more pure than the Home Depot Zep Root Kill. I got impatient, so I went to Home Depot and we're using Root Killer. But it's essentially the same thing. 99% copper sulfate and 1% other. Whereas this sulfate powder, so it's just ground up into a powder versus, you know, bigger crystals. I figure that might make the dissolving into distilled water a little easier. But this is 99.9% pure with 0.1% inert, whatever that means. And this stuff isn't just good for what we're doing. I mean, this thing has a whole list of household uses that you can use it for, which is kind of cool. But yeah, I've been messing with voltages a little bit. I ran it at 10 volts last night while I was sleeping, and man, we got some crystals, man. This morning when I woke up, there was some pretty decent sized crystals, but as soon as I touched the wire, they broke and fell off right to the bottom. And I was like, crap. So then I turned the voltage down to like 5 volts and let it run all day while I was at work. And we did get some more crystals, not nearly as big as quick, and they were really stuck on there good. Like, they were a pain to knock off. So I've already knocked off all the big ones just so we can get a look at them, but yeah, I'm probably gonna let this run for multiple days before I even think about touching it. Just let it go. But look how thick that copper wire's getting. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I had to fish all the crystals out of the bottom, because if you look on this side, I don't know if you guys are gonna be able to see this, but I can see, oh yeah, there's a bunch of debris underneath the copper bar at the bottom, so it is dissolving. And it's just flaking off. That's crazy. So I think what happens, because I was wondering how this fluid never goes bad, right? Because you can literally use this fluid forever. Like, it doesn't go bad. And I think how that happens is the copper crystals that we were getting last night was from the copper that was in the copper sulfate that was already in the fluid. So that copper kind of went to the wire, and it's being replenished by the copper from the copper bar. So that copper from that copper bar is going now into that solution, and it's just a cycle. And it just goes round and round and round, right? Because eventually, if I wanted to, when I'm done, I can filter this fluid out, clean it out, and there's actually a way to turn this fluid back into crystals, and I could put it right back in this bin. you know what I mean? Which I don't know how to do that. I'd have to learn how to do that. I don't think I'm gonna do that, but just saying, it's weird how it all works, you know? So yeah, 5 volts, not quite enough, I don't think. 10 volts was too much, so I'm gonna stick it at 7. I'm gonna let her rip for like 2 days and see what happens. Let's move this back a little bit. You know, it's just a little nerve-wracking. It's a little nerve-wracking leaving this and worrying about something shorting out and starting a fire. But honestly, it really doesn't grow that fast. So I honestly think I could go 2-3 days before I'd even get close. If the crystals make it to the halfway point, yeah, I would be not happy with that. But as long as they stay on this half, I think we should be good. And this is the final result. After 24 hours, we got 2.3 ounces. We're back in ounces territory, where we have like 180 pounds of copper to get through. Roughly, I think. I'm just guesstimating. Could be 200, could be 175, but it's somewhere in there. I know I have 150 pounds just in bars, and I think there's another 30-ish downstairs, so yeah. But look at those suckers gleam, huh? Little shiny crystals. That is so cool. They're like little flower bouquets. It's so cool how they grow. But quite brittle. But that's cool. That's 100% pure copper. No impurities. We took that and turned it into that. And I'm going to keep doing that until we get through all of it. So I'm going to keep taking these crystals, I wash them, I dry them, then I'm going to stick them in here. I put a little oxygen absorber thing on the lid, and once they're dry, they're going to go in here, and we're going to fill this sucker to the brim, and potentially even more than that, potentially even a 5-gallon bucket. But we'll see how it goes. So stay tuned, guys. I'll be working on this, and I'll make another video as soon as we get somewhere. And hopefully the next video we'll be taking these outside to melt them into pure bullion bars. Real money. So make sure you subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. See you later.